Welcome to the Influencer Show with your host, Trishawn Ben Salmi.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Influencer Show, where I interview people who can help influence the way you live life in a number of different ways. I'm your host, D7, and today we have a very special guest for us. So if you'd like to introduce yourself to listeners and let them know a little bit about you.
Thank you for introducing me as your special guest. I'm wondering if you ever had a non-special guest, but thank you, Trey. My name's Ron Malhotra, and as I said to you, I'm quite impressed with the work that you're doing. So it's an honor to be here. I really appreciate because I had written myself off right up until the age of 25. To see somebody accomplishing what you're accomplishing at 15 is fantastic. When people ask me, what do you do, Ron? Because they see my profile, and on my LinkedIn profile, it says I'm a award-winning wealth planner and I've got a wealth advisory business. I'm the founder of The Successful Male. I run this thing called the Future Millionaires Academy and business advisory and thought leadership mentorship. People say, what do you actually do? Because you seem to be doing a lot of things. And I go, no, I'm only doing one thing. I'm a teacher by spirit. I'm an entrepreneur by mind, but I'm a teacher by spirit. And all our multiple businesses and brands are simply the fact that I like the entrepreneurship game, but I love teaching. And so when you look at consulting, advisory, training, speaking, writing, they're all really forms of teaching. And when you teach and you believe you have something of value and you want to create depth and width of impact, you do it through different modalities like speaking, training, advising, so on and so forth. So basically, in short, I'm a teacher, but not a school teacher.
That is absolutely amazing, and thank you for sharing. And why don't you share with us why you do what you do?
Man, I think any person, like when people look at motivational speakers, they typically think it's a scam. And the first thought is, this guy is trying to make money out of me, right? And I kind of looked at the profiles of people who become speakers and authors and trainers, and I found this commonality, which is that they've gone through so much pain. But for some event, for some reason, they were able to overcome that and come out much better at the other end. So when you're able to do that and you see everyone around you being defeated by their circumstances, and you see the fact that you've come from really tough circumstances yourself, but you use those circumstances as stepping stones to build an awesome life and lifestyle, you want to start sharing it. It just comes out of you because it's like, wow, I wish somebody had taught me this. And it's like you can't help yourself because you just want to start sharing it with the world. And I believe that that's the primary motivator for a lot of people who become speakers and authors, is when they experience that transformation, because it's coming from experience, it's not coming from theoretical learning. You just want people to know that, hey, I can do it. Somebody like me who was lower than average intelligence, and didn't have education and didn't have so much that you have. If I can do it, then you can definitely do it as well. And I think that's where it comes from.
I think that's actually really inspiring, because then being able to simply showcase that and being able to show that vulnerability to just show where you have come from and encourage others to do the same, it then actually encourages them and actually helps them develop self-confidence, because then they sort of see themselves as, yeah, I might be going through some hardships, but it's not as difficult as X, Y, Z. So then I can then push myself to achieve more.
Yeah, that is definitely true. And in addition to that, I mean, I never tell people that it's not hard, because it is, right? And so it's a case of, yep, I'll show some vulnerability. And I actually was quite reluctant to show my vulnerability because I didn't want to milk it and commercialize it. I didn't want people, like everyone's like, oh, look at me, I was so poor and I was so broke and I used to sleep on my sister's couch, and look at me now, I'm a multimillionaire. So that's become a kind of a bit of a narrative, which is pretty popular in the motivational industry. But it's actually true. Like in my case, I was actually broke. I was having a banana for dinner because that's all I could afford. And then when I looked at the number of people that are able to earn into the seven figures, or they're able to build a 7-8 figure net worth, and I thought to myself, hey, that's a pretty good accomplishment. I'm proud of myself. I'm not arrogant about it. I'm proud of myself. But let me dissect all the steps that I took to get to this point. So I do say to people, look, it's okay to be vulnerable, but you don't want to stay in that vulnerability zone. You actually want to operate from strength. My whole message is, yeah, okay, be vulnerable from time to time, but you're also going to be strong. Because had I remained vulnerable, I don't think I'd be able to get to where I am. But yeah, absolutely. I want people to get a glimpse into who I used to be. And there is a case for being vulnerable, because if I only talk about my accomplishments and I don't talk about where I came from, then people will find me to be credible potentially, but not relatable. So as a strategic move, all speakers talk about that, because we want people to know that, hey, look, what you're seeing right now is just the final product, but what you don't see is the journey that we've been on. And so there is a case for sharing the vulnerabilities, I guess.
Exactly. Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And what would you say has been the biggest influence on you that you wish you had known sooner?
It's been mentors. I mean, I went through the traditional education system. I was born in India, so there, as a person of an ethnic background, there is a lot of emphasis on academic education, right? So you've got to be a lawyer, you've got to be a doctor, you've got to be an engineer. I was lucky my parents didn't really push that on me, but I could see all the other kids around me. They had this thing about, well, either I've got to be a doctor, lawyer, engineer, or I've got to get a job as an executive in a big multinational or corporation, right? And so that's the dream. And that was the dream that I bought into. And when I was 31, I had already acquired quite a reasonable chunk in assets and net worth. Financially, I was doing well. I was working for a prominent private bank, and the lifestyle from the outside looked amazing. But I was coming home every day and I was fighting with my wife, and I was always unhappy. And I felt like I didn't have genuine confidence. It was all like I needed to have the $5,000 Hugo Boss suit to feel good about myself. I needed to upgrade my car every 2 years. And that's when it dawned on me that, wow, how can I accomplish so much and still feel so empty and feel so weak on the inside? And that's when I realized that the definition of success that I had been chasing was not my own definition, because frankly, I didn't even know who I was. And so the real education actually started at 31, and I was very fortunate to find a mentor. And the first thing that the mentor said to me was, who are you? And so I said, well, you know my name already. Like, what you mean? Like, I'm a private banker, financial advisor. He goes, no, I didn't ask you what you do. Who are you? So I thought about the question. I said, are you asking me about like my culture, my nationality? Like, what are you asking me? No, he said, no, I'm not asking you what culture you belong to, what nationality or what religion you belong to. I'm asking you, who are you? I started to get really irritated, because it was like, why is he asking me this stupid question? Like, you know who I am. And he made me realize, he said, look, Ron, you didn't pick your name, you didn't pick your nationality, you didn't pick your religion, you didn't pick your culture. I'm guessing you didn't even pick your occupation. It was a byproduct of cultural, parental, and media conditioning. Am I right? And it got me thinking. Pretty much all the choices I had made were not even my choices. And that's when I realized I had no idea who I was. So the biggest fundamental change for me was at the age of 31. I decided to rediscover who I was. Well, discover, because I'd never discovered who I was. So no, I can't say rediscover, discover myself for the first time. And this time I realized that success was not about making a lot of money. It was about making a lot of money doing what you love and something that makes a difference. And once I understood that, I had an obligation to understand who I am, and then make sure that my career, occupational choices, my financial choices align with that, because success without fulfillment is the ultimate failure. And I was amazed at the number of people. It's a massive epidemic across the world right now. You look at the youth of Asia, Africa, United States, young, amazing. So many of the young kids remind me of myself. They have this energy, they have this ambition, they have this fire burning inside of them, no direction. The only direction that they've been given is, hey, go and get this education and then work for a corporation. And the worst part now is that the world has changed. We have this massive disruption that's expected in the job market, 800 million jobs to be lost in the next 10 years, a $7 trillion disruption because of artificial intelligence, automation, and outsourcing. And the youth are not prepared for it, because they followed somebody else's plan. And that plan that worked 30 or 40 years ago is not going to work now. And in addition to that, because personal development education is not something that's taught in the schools or universities or workplaces, neither they got the relevant skill set, nor they have the right mindset. And they're completely unprepared for the new world. And that's why we've been on this mission to educate people. But the problem is what? You know what the problem is? People don't even know that they need to know this stuff. So you literally got to convince them to do the right thing by themselves. And when you try and convince them to do the right thing by themselves, they think you have an agenda, you're the scammer.
Exactly. Yeah.
Then they criticize you, hate on you, and they, and so it's like, sometimes you go, why the hell am I doing this? I'm trying to get these people out of a hole that they don't even realize they're in, and they're abusing me. But the thing is, once you decide to make an impact, to make a difference, you sign up for a certain level of suffering, and you take it in your stride, and you go, I'm going to do this because that's what I'm supposed to do. This is my obligation. So here we are.
That is absolutely amazing. I think that's actually really powerful, because then, as a result of being able to not only tap into like the whole education and just being able to find your own identity, it then actually gives you that time to sort of like self-reflect into like what values you have, what you believe in, and things like that. Actually helps you to question the things that you do, just like in everyday life. And I think that's actually really important how you said about like education, just like how people are trying to get prepared for jobs and stuff like that. But it's actually being able to then create your own sort of like business, like just loads of different things that you're passionate about, and then make money doing that. Because many people often like they try and chase the money, they try and get the highest paying job. But if you're not passionate about it, then eventually you're going to get to a stage where you can no longer do it.
That's right. And if you're not inspired, I mean, the word inspiration comes from the word in spirit. And that's where we're really powerful, is when we're operating from spirit. When we work too much from the mind, we're not as powerful, because our mind is a composite of other people's beliefs and opinions that we've acquired over the years and never examined it. So when you're acting from spirit, you're acting from a more pure place. It's pure intelligence. It's telling you what you're supposed to do, and you don't even know why, and you don't even know how. You just know that my zone of genius is calling me. I'm constantly gravitating towards these things. It makes me feel alive. It unleashes more energy. And I find it remarkable that the education system doesn't teach this. So now we have an epidemic of doctors, lawyers, management consultants that have, in their mid-30s, are starting to realize they're depressed, they're anxious, they've got problems with alcohol, problems in the bedroom, they've got sleep apnea, they're having suicidal thoughts. Because when you're not inspired, none of that stuff matters. And that's what happened to me. And so the first step, we have to teach young people now. And we see the emerging talent that's coming out of Africa and Asia. We see these young kids, they're hungry, they're educated, they've got access to the internet, but no direction. So you have this massive Ferrari engine, and the driver doesn't know how to drive. Right? So it's a lot of them are going to crash it, because they're just not trained in how to control their thoughts, emotions, and ambition, and put it intelligently towards a directed course. They don't know how to do that. They haven't learned that skill. And so the first thing we've got to teach them is to identify themselves not just as a mind and a body, but a mind, body, heart, and spirit. Help them identify their purpose, their passion, their values, their strengths, their mission, their zone of genius, and then make sure that the goals are only set after they know who they are, so that the goals are in alignment with who they are and what they really want, and not just following somebody else's dream. I believe that when it comes to creating a holistically successful life and lifestyle, there are three main ingredients that are required. Now we teach these three main ingredients in our programs. Number one, mastery of self. You need to understand how you work, how your mind works, and how you can regulate your thoughts and emotions and direct them towards the channel course. Most people don't know how to do that. It's basic fundamental stuff. But in the human race, what you'll see is that technology has evolved, but the human mind hasn't. The second component is mastery of business and financial fundamentals. Because we live in an economic world, if you don't understand money and you don't understand business, and business is not what people think it is. Business is simply an extension of your personal vision, something that you monetize by solving a problem and creating value in the world. So if you master finance and business, then what you have is you can then create the lifestyle that you want, because everything costs money. Medical care costs money, time with your parents costs money, good education costs money, a good lifestyle costs money. Even to have peace of mind, you want to be able to get away, you want to be able to do these basic things. Everything costs money, so you want to master financial and business fundamentals. And the third thing that you want to master is spiritual principles, your connection with the world, and understanding of energy, frequency, and vibration. Where you can integrate these three elements, you mastered yourself, or at least you've achieved reasonable mastery of yourself. you've mastered or you've achieved reasonable mastery of business and financial fundamentals, and you've achieved reasonable mastery of spiritual principles, and you can integrate these three elements, you become a holistically successful human being that becomes an asset to their family, to their community, to their country. But the moment a person who hasn't been able to integrate these three elements then becomes a dangerous human being, because they become liability to themselves, they become a liability to their family, they become violent, they become aggressive, especially men, because we don't know how to channel, we don't know how to talk sometimes, we don't know how to express our feelings. So we then start to get angry. And that's why it's so important. If you're going to fix any world problem, we've got to start here with individuals, right? And we can't solve any of the world problems like poverty, sex trafficking, human trafficking, drugs, violence. We can't solve any of that until we give the tools for human beings to manage themselves. And it amazes me that nobody even talks about this, or they talk about it at a superficial level, not really at the level where it matters.
I definitely. I think that financial education is just a huge part that many people often actually overlook the power of it, because, like, when it comes to financial education, they think, oh, it's for people who are traders, property investors, like that. But then having, how you said, simple fundamentals just as to how the world works, how everything works really, it then puts you in another perspective. It changes then your mindset, and it actually provide you with different life skills as a result of being able to then incorporate all this knowledge into one being.
Yeah, well said. Well said. And I wish somebody had told me this when I was 15. I just wonder what I could have done with my life and not wasted so many years. But anyway, here we are.
Yeah, definitely. How do you then prefer to influence others to change the way they live their lives for the better?
I don't know if I'm trying to influence others. I think it's just more about sharing what I believe in. I think so. I first, you have to be clear on your philosophy. What do you actually stand for? And your philosophy is not something that changes, right? So I stand for self-responsibility. I personally believe that we have an obligation to maximize our potential. And I personally believe that we have an obligation to make a difference. So naturally, that essence is always, underlying all of the content that I produce when I talk about something. I'm talking not from here, not as a tactical move. Hey, I'm going to put content so people can start to come and join my Instagram feed, and then I can become an influencer. That's what we call tactical intellectual thinking, right? And there's no connection there. So I get out of here and I go in here and go, what do I really care about? What's been bothering me? What's been frustrating me? What's the problem that I have solved? And what's really annoying me about how people are ignoring this problem, right? Because there's energy, there's natural energy and emotion there, right? Then I write and speak from that space without any regard to the consequences. Am I going to be liked? Am I going to be accepted? Is my message going to be validated? Is it going to be understood, right? I was not thinking about any of this stuff. And working with various marketing people in business, they said, it's not going to work because you need to be tactical. You need to give people what they want. And I remember once saying to my marketing guy, I said, giving people what they want, but what if giving people what they want would destroy them further? And he's like, yep, I get it, but you got to give people. I said, I want to give people what they need. And he said to me, people don't buy what they need, Ron, they buy what they want. And I go, so I had this massive dilemma. People buy what they want, but what they want is actually making them suffer and it's keeping them in pain. What do I do now? Do I give up my philosophy and my values to give people what they want so I can make a lot of money, but I don't cause any transformation? Or do I become righteous and then suffer in business? Nobody buys from me. And this was a dilemma that I had for a number of years. And eventually I sorted it out. I've worked it out that I could be completely aligned and authentic with what I believed in, but still give people what they want in the initial stages so that I could give people what they need. Right? Mm-hmm. And this was one of the biggest challenges that most social entrepreneurs would have. Anyone that's got a conscience around business would go through this dilemma at some point. What sells is not what people actually need, right? I mean, you think about the fact that we still, till today, so many people make poor choices with money, diet, relationships, right? We neglect our bodies, we neglect our health. So the human mind has not evolved. And one of the things we need to understand is that The human mind is not meant for success. It's actually hardwired for survival. And that is why once majority of people know how to pay their electricity and gas bill, put food on the table, have a roof above their head, they've got a warm bed, and their security needs and social needs are met, they stop growing. They actually put a lid on their own growth because the brain goes, I'm fine. Until the shit hits the fan at some point, like we're now finding with COVID-19. And if there's a crisis, usually every 8 to 10 years, most people find that they're unprepared because they were hoping that there'll never be a storm. So they got into the boat, they got into the middle of the ocean and expected, hey, there'll be no wind, there'll be no storm, I'll be fine. So that's the problem. Because the brain is meant for survival, it's not meant for success. Success is very counterintuitive and it's very unnatural. And you have to train yourself so that success becomes natural. And that requires a lot of mental work, which people don't want to do. So here we are. That's the dilemma that we have in being able to cause the transformation. People who need help the most are the least likely to seek it out.
I think that's actually just like one of the hardest things when getting involved in just like business as a whole, when you actually have that one thing that could change someone's life for the better, but then they're actually neglecting and just simply shying away from the fact that this is what they need, and instead they're running to things that give them short-term gratification, which in the long run are actually going to have many negative effects on them.
Yeah, short-term pleasure, first level consequence, long-term pain, second level consequence, right? And this is what people don't understand because we're not long-term thinkers. We base our decisions on what makes us feel good right now. And majority of what makes us feel good right now in terms of pleasure seeking is going to cause us pain down the track. And we don't understand this. And we don't learn from history. And we don't learn from our parents' pains. And we don't learn from our grandparents' pain. Most of us continue to make the same mistakes. And that's why what you're seeing now is the wealth disparity getting wider. The wealthy keep getting wealthy because they don't just know how to manage money, but they teach their kids values, they teach their kids skills. The middle class are too busy engaged with consumerism and entertainment and sports. And then the poor are getting richer because the poor are coming from such a low base now that they've now got the opportunity. They've already got the work ethic, but now they've got more opportunities. So what we're going to start to see is a world potentially where the wealthy keep getting wealthier, which they always have. The middle class will get poorer, but the poorer will start to get richer. But not all of them, of course. The ones that have already got the inbuilt work ethic and have the ability to think for themselves, which is a very rare skill indeed.
Exactly. I definitely agree with that. And could you share with us what you would say people should do to stay motivated during moments of crisis?
Well, I try not to use the word should, because if somebody says to me, you should do that, already it's like, oh, really, I don't want to hear this. But so I try not to tell people what they should do. I say to them, look, maybe try this, or this is something that's worked for me. First thing I always say is that understand that you're going to have a number of crises in your life, okay? To expect that there'll never be a rainy day is just foolish. So when you know that it's going to rain at some point, what do? You go and buy the umbrella whilst it's sunny outside. You don't buy the umbrella when it's raining because no one's going to sell it to you because everybody needs it. What that means is you need to understand how the world market is doing. So right now you need to look at the trends. You need to look at where the world is going. We're no longer in the information age. We can already see that information is easily accessible. So we're now moving towards the social age. There's a change in the way business is done. There is a change in how consumers consume. There's a change in how people connect. You need to understand that. And you need to ask yourself, am I equipped for the new world? So first thing is skills. Second thing, mindset. When things get tough, what do? Do I give up? Or do I have I got the mental toughness and the resilience to bounce back from adversity? So you got to work on the mindset, right? And then third thing you got to work on is to make sure that you have built a buffer, meaning that, right now with the COVID-19 situation, all these businesses are going bankrupt and all these people are losing money and people are like, oh, the stock markets have wiped out everyone's savings. Well, it hasn't mine. My businesses are fine. I'm not saying this with any air of arrogance, but I expect things to go wrong. So we have this thing called a risk management plan. And we go, what are some of the things that can go wrong? Interest rates can go up, stock markets can collapse, customers can stop buying, there can be change in legislation that can affect my business. So you make a list of all the things that can go wrong. and then you strategically mitigate all those risks. My staff may steal from me, somebody can sue me. So you look at everything, and then you educate yourself on how business works and how investing works, and you put safeguards and mitigants in place. So when things go wrong, which they inadvertently will, you are not going to sink. So people who are sinking right now, and I don't mean to be disrespectful to anybody, but you can't just say, oh, I was doing so well, but because the storm came in, I'm now sinking. Why did you get into the water expecting that there was going to be no storm, right? And so this is what we need to educate people on, is that if you can't build your skills, to build your savings, to have a protection plan, to have the right types of insurances, to manage your investments in such a way that you can manage downside risk, you're not skilled. Nobody wants to hear this though, because it makes people feel so uncomfortable, because they would much rather go, it's the economy, it's the government, it's my employer, it's my wife, it's my husband. It's very hard to say, it's me. I am suffering from ignorance. And I can tell you, Trey, when I say this, I don't mean to sound righteous, but this is exactly what I had to say to myself as a 31-year-old man looking in the mirror, going, I have screwed up. Do you know how hard it is? Because I was arrogant and ignorant at the same time, at the age of 31, to actually look at myself in my reflection and go, you are the problem. It ain't my parents. It's nobody else. It's not my employer. I'm the problem. I'm not designed for success. And it's the humble pie you have to eat. And you've got to eat it at least once in your life. If you can't confront the brutal reality, you cannot change it.
And I think that's actually really important, because then being able to then have that sort of like self-awareness, just being able to notice and sort of like put yourself in a perspective as to, like, sometimes we do get caught up in the now and how much we've achieved and stuff like that. But it's about thinking from another perspective, and just simply then being able to look in on yourself and be able to sort of like pick out the things that might not have gone so well, and how you could have planned for them in a better way. And I think that's something that people often are actually missing, because they often think like everything's going to go great, it's going to be absolutely amazing, everything's going to be so successful, but it's about having those things in place for when it doesn't. Now, I'm not saying that it's like, I'm not saying that you have to go in with a negative like mindset, thinking, oh my God, it's going to go crazy and stuff like that. But it's simply about having those backup plans, so that if things do go the opposite direction, then you just have things in place, so that no matter which way it does go, you're then in a place of security.
I love the fact that you made that distinction, because I don't want people to think that I only think about what can go wrong. In fact, 80% of my energy and attention is focused on what I want. Having said that, being a realist and being pragmatic, I also understand that just because I'm engaging in a lot of positive thinking, it doesn't mean that things can't go wrong. So 20% of my energy and attention is focused on preempting and preparing and planning for what can go wrong. Okay. But I've got my ratios right. Like, I don't want to be spending 80% of my time worrying about what can go wrong, because that will just drive me insane. And I'm going to be producing this massive negative vibes, and I'm going to make myself sick. So you've got to be pragmatic, and you've got to go, 80% of my attention is on what I want, my goals, my vision that inspires me, makes me feel good. And then 20% of my time, hey, these are some of the things that can go wrong. I don't want to get emotionally involved with it. I just look at it objectively and go, all of these things can go wrong. Okay, what can I do about it? Here we need some legal contracts. Here we need some insurance. Here we need some cash buffer. Here we need this, that, whatever it is, right? Here we need some diversification. But there are ways that you can manage risk. And that's why I find it astounding, is that like so many people, like executives and professionals, 20, 30 years, they've been in the workforce. They spend decades learning what they've learned. The crash happens and they're wiped out. And entrepreneurs as well. Like, what did you expect? So we have to create better sailors, the ones that can sail in all kinds of water, not just calm waters, but if a storm comes in, they can still sail the boat, right? We don't want to create sailors who will only sail when it's sunny outside. And there's a fundamental difference in building the mindsets of the young people today look, I'm very impressed with the young people. I've got to say, like, you guys are so much more advanced than when I was your age. But I do have a concern though, because you guys have, I mean, for you, I think the biggest challenge for your audience and for you as a person and people in your age group would be you are bombarded with information. And I think your biggest challenge is going to be the ability to ruthlessly identify useless information and eliminate it. And number two, to be able to do deep and focused work. And I reckon that's going to be the biggest challenge for your generation, is with you're constantly bombarded with so much stimulus. How do you ruthlessly eliminate what you don't need and focus on what you need? That'll be an interesting thing to see over the next 10 years.
No, I definitely agree. I think that's something that many people, as a result of the whole sort of like lockdown scenario, they actually are going through at an earlier stage, because having that time to then be by yourself, it then sort of like helps you then reflect as to like how your actions were playing out and things like that. And it actually then puts you in a different person's shoes, because then being like at home by yourself, it actually helps you then sort of like it helps you then recreate who you are as a person, and if you choose to, because then like everyone's big on social media, everyone's like crazy about like how many likes do I get, do they, what they think of me. But then having that time by yourself actually helps you to reflect on what your values are.
It's great wisdom there, Trey. I completely agree.
Thank you. And what would you say is your passion?
You mean beyond my work?
Yeah.
I have a very simple life, to be honest with you. People think I have a complex life, but my business is my passion, first of all, because I'm very passionate about my business, because I'm in the business of teaching. Apart from that, my other passion is my family. Okay, my health and fitness, my family, and my other passion is God, spending time on my own solitude and connecting with the universal intelligence and seeking its guidance. I don't really have anything too much. I like cars. I got to tell you, I do like cars. I like cars and watches, and I end up wasting a lot of money on those things. But you got to have something there where you're not completely sensible and mature, as my wife would say. You're so immature when it comes to watches and cars, and I am, admittedly. But you can't have everything where you're so like wise. I have areas in my life where I'm completely not evolved, and I like the fact that I'm not so evolved in every area of my life. It's actually a bit of fun.
I think that's actually really important. Just having those like different passions, such as like how you said about family, fitness, faith, and things like that, because it actually helps you to then stay grounded and sort of like stay grateful and just stay like positive as to like just as to like what you do. Because then, as a result of like having faith and having that support network around you, then puts you in a place where you are constantly grateful for what you've achieved.
Yeah, that's right. But as I said, I always allow myself, for 10% of the time, I allow myself to behave badly, act immature, make silly decisions, because I'm human, right? So I'm not trying to be God here. And I allow myself, and I say to people, don't put so much pressure on yourself. Like, get 90% of your life in order. It's important, because if you want to have a good quality life and lifestyle, you need to be disciplined in some areas. But I give myself a 10% allowance to behave badly, right? Because there's a kid in me and he wants to do some silly things sometimes. And that kind of, I relax with it. When I make mistakes or something like that, I don't beat myself up over it, because I've allowed myself that allowance to make some mistakes in life and be, not be so perfect. And the same exactly, when I look at my daughter, I tell her, I said, your dad has a lot of flaws, and you're going to see them. And the thing is, I'm always a work in progress. I'm going to keep working on some of the stuff, but there are some things I actually like the fact that I'm not very involved in those areas. And you're going to see, and she goes, yeah, I know, Dad, I know, because she's seen that part of me. So yeah, I'd say, for the people who are young, like, don't feel like you have to be perfect, but there are 5 areas that are non-negotiable for me: peace of mind, health, relationships, meaningful relationships, my business, and money. Those 5 areas I do not neglect. And I prioritize those. And with relationships, I only have a few key relationships, and I make sure that I I prioritize those relationships. So I don't neglect those 5 areas. Everything else can wait, and it's not as important, but those 5 key areas I don't neglect. So yeah, and that model's been working quite well for me.
I think that's actually really important. I really do urge that you listeners are taking notes on the golden nuggets that Ron has shared with us so far. And I think that's actually really important how then you said about having those different areas of your lives where then you focus on most of your attention to, because then actually helps develop self-discipline and like several other life skills which can then help you if, like, let's say later on there was some obstacles that you then had to overcome, because then as a result of then having that self-discipline and knowing that you can then put in the work, it actually just puts you once again in a place of security.
Great, well said, Trey.
And what would you say to the world if you could say one thing that would have a lasting influence? What would it be and why?
I'm going to just do a plug here for my book, Impossible to Fail. Go and read Impossible to Fail. It'll answer so many of your questions. And I remember when I came up with this book and I said, I've got my new book coming out. It's my 5th book. And people were like, it's a pretty audacious title, Ron. It sounds very arrogant. And I go, you know what? You're saying this from a place of ignorance. There is a place where once you understand the cause and effect in life, you can get to a point in life where you can create the life that you want. So, my suggestion would be find out. And if you don't have to read my book, go and read somewhere else. But if you don't have any other material which can tell you the fundamental principles that contribute to a great life, check out my book. It's actually at the back there, Impossible to Fail. And check it out. I wrote it for actually young people. When I wrote the book, I had a young male in my mind when I actually wrote the book, right? Because I could see myself in them, and I asked myself, what do I wish somebody had taught me when I was young? And so that's what's in the book.
That is absolutely sorry. That is absolutely amazing.
Yeah. Thank you. I hope you don't mind. I know it was a bit of a shameless plug, but I'm constantly promoting myself. But that's because I do good work. And I always tell people, if you do good work, why would you hide yourself?
Exactly.
Promote yourself.
I agree. Definitely. And what advice would you give to those who's maybe they've had their very own £1 million idea at a time like now?
A business idea? Look, I have to tell you, business is tough. First of all, get over all the fancy stuff in business. Build extreme mental toughness. Like, business will build your character like nothing else. But if you are not good enough, it will chew you and spit you out. And you need to be able to bring both what I call a good heart and a strategic mind. Mm-hmm. If you're only a good-hearted person, you're going to get pushed around and you're going to be eaten alive. If you're only a strategic-minded person, you're going to be walking on people and you're going to be pushing them around. But if you have a good heart and a strategic mind, it's a formidable combination. You need both. And I believe if you want the kind of business that inspires you, but is also giving you the lifestyle that you want and the freedom that you want, bring both. The other thing I would say is, before you develop your product or service, your mind is not the laboratory. Test it in the marketplace. The market will give you feedback. And I call it the proof of concept, which is your proof of concept is determined by the market. And my third piece of advice would be that in business, and I learned this the hard way, and I'm teaching you what I learned, and I don't want you to make the same mistake. Business does not reward righteousness. It rewards what's right. And what's right in business is what works. So if you get too caught up in about how things should be instead of what actually works, you're going to pay the ultimate price in business. In your personal life, be righteous as much as you want. With your family, your friends, be righteous. With your social cause, be righteous. Making a difference, be righteous. But when you bring righteousness into business, you'll be punished. I learned it the hard way because I was punished for so many years. And then I eventually I thought I'd bend the rules of business and see if I can alter them. No, I had to alter my expectations and who I was so that I could learn business skills.
I think that's actually really important, because then as a result of being able to then take those results and actually see how then you can change those decisions to get yourself to the expected or even the desired outcome.
Yeah, that's correct. And you have to be disciplined. I mean, discipline, somebody recently said to me, discipline is the highest form of self-love. When you care about yourself, when you love yourself, you'll be disciplined. So discipline is not something that they teach you in school these days, right? Because it's not politically correct to, correct people. So you will have to impose high standards on yourself, high standards of discipline, because the world's not going to do it now, right? Your parents are not going to do it. Chances are teachers are not going to do it. So you have to do it for yourself. So learn discipline as quickly as you can, because the habits that you make now are going to make you. And if you get the wrong habits, then they'll break you. And so you have to be really careful. And discipline is the way you create good conducive habits, success conducive habits.
I totally agree, definitely. And what would you say is the biggest issue, or maybe even a problem that you're aiming to solve as an influencer in your own industry?
Right now, my focus is financial ignorance, and the other part of that is financial misunderstanding, because now every person who has been able to buy a Lamborghini with their first 7-figure revenue in their business is now dispensing money advice and wealth advice, and most of the wealth and money advice is incomplete and downright dangerous, really. But so financial ignorance is we have the Future Millionaires Academy, which is being launched next month, and the Future Millionaires Academy is basically teaching people all the fundamentals and principles through which the application of which would result in $1 million net worth. And there's a lot that people have to learn. It's, so many marketers will tell you this is an easy 5-step way or this way or that way to make money, but there really isn't. It's not about making money. It's actually about keeping money and multiplying money. That's where the magic happens. So the problem that I'm really looking to fix right now is the financial ignorance, because it's the most widespread problem in the world, where, we have 7.8 billion people on the planet. And it's estimated by Bloomberg that there are only 49 million millionaires across the entire planet. As a percentage, it's less than 0.5%. Okay, so if not even 1% of the people in the world, not even 10%, not even 20%, not even 30% get to millionaire status, there is something terribly wrong in our understanding of how money works. And so what I've done is I've dissected all the principles and fundamentals that are proven when it comes to money, and the entire sequence. So not just, hey, investing money. Like yesterday, I was at a webinar, and somebody asked me a question about, where should I invest my money? Is the stock market the right place to invest money? And my response was, I don't even know if you should be investing money right now. If you haven't developed your skills, you don't know how to influence your income, you don't know how to save money, and you don't have a solid protection plan, you should not even be thinking about investing at this point. So there are some fundamentals that people are missing, and they're missing the wealth creation sequence, which I've created in the Future Millionaires Academy, to educate people on what is the first thing, then the second thing, then the third thing, then the fourth thing. Because business is all about speed, but investing is all about patience. Okay, and a lot of people get that wrong. If you take business fundamentals and you apply it in investing, you will fail. And if you take investing fundamentals and apply in business, you will fail. They're very different. Both lead to wealth generation, but they have different rules. And I don't think most people understand that.
No, I totally agree. I think that's actually really, really true. I think that's something that people should actually try to grasp the concept a lot more, because when you're then able to simply understand, actually differ between the two, you're then able to actually combine the lessons that you then learn and actually be able to generate results a lot faster as a result than having the understanding from both sides.
Yeah, correct. And I'll give you another example. In business, mistakes are essential. In investing, you want to avoid mistakes.
Yeah.
So when you bring the business mindset, and this is what the problem in how social media messages are being propagated. Hey, you've got to make mistakes. Mistakes are good. No, not always. No, absolutely not. I can in fact tell you 3 instances where we do not even tolerate mistakes in our business. Number 1, where the mistake has been made twice before. Number 2, where it's a cause of laziness. Number 3, where it's a consequence of lack of preparation. We don't tolerate those mistakes. To make a blanket statement and say, hey, all mistakes are good because it leads to learning. Dude, it's all well and good for you to say that when you're not running a business. But the moment you're running a business and you're paying for stuff, it's not so good, right? So these are the types of distinctions and thinking which are missing in social media. And my concern is that when people go and try get all of their information from social media, all they're getting is these disconnected pieces. And when they act on that, they're going to realize that they're missing all the fundamentals because they've got big gaping holes in their understanding. And that's why I design programs, very comprehensive programs around success, money, and business, because I teach them the entire pathway. Because what took me 10 years to learn, I can teach it in 6 to 12 months because nobody taught me the entire pathway. So I had to constantly experiment and figure it out for myself. And I had to go from one mentor to one book, one course, one program. And it did my head in. It's like, why can't somebody just show me the entire pathway? But people don't do that because most people are tactical thinkers, even in the business world. Whereas I'm a very strategic thinker. I like to think about, okay, what is a person who has no money right now, but tons of desire? What do they need to know? What is the old version of me at the age of 21? What does he need to know to make $1 million? Right? And so that's how I've created my solutions for young people.
It's absolutely amazing. And once again, I really do think that that's something really important, because then as a result, being able to simply analyze where these skills may work, whereas in another case, they may not be as useful to you, because just like the whole financial education arena, people often, when they get involved into it, they actually take all these limiting beliefs, all these negative inclinations along with them. But it's actually about working off of a fresh slate, to say, because then it actually helps them not only grasp the concept a lot easier, but then it also allows them to learn without being in a state of not actually allowing the teachings to go in, because I believe that 80% of our learning is actually based on the state that we are in. So we have to be in a state where we are then open to receive and even giving them information at sometimes.
Well said, Trey.
And could you share with us maybe a pivotal point along your journey and what it taught you?
What's my journey taught me?
So a pivotal point along your journey, just like something that really changed the way you looked at life.
Well, I think the thing that I learned was that can man, and I don't mean to put any religious connotations here, but can man live without God? The answer is yes. But can man live a wonderful, inspirational life, a connected life, without God? I don't think so. I mean, I only found God in my mid-30s, and I was an atheist. I didn't believe in God. I was a massive skeptic. In fact, I used to think that anyone that believes in God or religion is massively brainwashed. And I'm a pragmatic guy. I'm a numbers guy. I'm a business guy. For me to say this means that I have gone and I've experienced certain things in my life which have convinced me. And I'm not brainwashed through religious text or anything like that. I've experienced it for myself. So the thing that really been the most pivotal change in my life was the understanding that involving and integrating God into your life with all the other stuff, right? Because I still believe in, I've got to take my part, I've got to do my part. But integrating God just means that you can make much wiser decisions. And it's not an easy concept to explain in a 45-minute conversation or an hour conversation. But what I just say to people now is when people say to me, Ron, how come you're always able to manifest what you want? And I say to them, are you sure you want to know the entire answer? And they go, well, yeah. And I go, well, I can't take full credit for it. Put it that way. And they don't understand what I'm saying. And then I talk to them a little about what my beliefs are. And a lot of them are just surprised. And a lot of them just think that I'm a bit woo-woo to be talking about this stuff. But that's been the most pivotal change in my life, is that from this point on, I don't want to ever work without involving God in everything that I do. And that's been a significant contributor to the life that I've also been able to design for myself. So that's been a fundamental part of my learning. And as you know, with God, the more questions you have, the more questions it raises. So still learning, and we'll see what happens.
Mm-hmm. I think that's actually really, really key, because then as a result, just having that open mindset and constantly being open to more learning and constantly asking questions and diving deeper actually helps you get a better understanding. And I think that's actually something that's really important, how you said about like when people often ask you questions and people aren't often willing to do what it takes to actually get them to their desired outcome. So one thing that I believe that people should often actually look into deeper when they say that they might want to have this dream house or this dream car or something like that, it's about actually thinking about like the things that has to be in place to then get you to the place where you desire to be.
Yeah, that's right. And you're right. People will ask a question, and a lot of the times they're not really open to getting the response. They want a particular response, and they're expecting one. And that's why I always put these caveats in saying, are you sure you want to know? Because I know that a lot of the times people don't want to know, or they're seeking a particular pathway to get to where they want. But all I can do is I can only share my experiences, right? That's all I have. But I've tested it on myself over and over again. I've tested it with my mentees and my clients over and over again. So I feel very convicted about it. And then I just say to people, look, have an open mind. Why don't you try it out and see? And then it's so easy to reject an idea because it doesn't align with your current beliefs. But how are you going to know if you don't try it?
Exactly. I totally agree. And if you had to be another person for one day, who would it be and why?
I have a number of idols. As you can see, there's a picture of one of them behind me there. I think at this current point in time, this is who I would be. Jay-Z. Just because I just really, I've been reading his, biography, and just the journey that he went from, where he came from, and how he has built a massive empire, and what it took for him to get to that point. It's an incredible journey, and people don't realize how tough and some of the stuff that he's had to do and experience to get to that point. So, I think he's the second African American rapper who is a billionaire now, and to get to that point in a country where we know that there's a lot of problems, that's pretty incredible. So that's very inspiring for me. So I'd love to be, and I love rap. So I'm a wannabe gangster rapper. Hence the hat. I'm only joking, but you know what I mean? So it's something I would just love to be him for a day. I actually went to New York last year and went to his bar 4040 just to see what he had built, because he's got such a fantastic vision. So he's the first person. The second person I'd like to be is the Sheikh of Dubai. Again, same thing. He has taken a country which had no infrastructure and built it into one of the most amazing countries in the world, just to get a glimpse into their minds and how they think. So yeah, those are the two people that I'm very inspired by at the current moment.
I think one thing that actually that I picked up on that actually connected those two people together was the vision, and how they were then able to turn something that people may see as nothing into actually something that is actually not only seen as amazing by the public, but actually seen as extraordinary.
Yeah, that's right. And that's the power of the human spirit. That's why I love people like that, who have demonstrated the power of their spirit and how they can just take a vision and convert it into something so powerful. So that's why they're the two people.
That is absolutely amazing. And could you share with us your views on the word legacy and what legacy you'd like to leave?
Legacy for me is creating something, knowing that you may not get to enjoy it, right? So it's like, another way to put it is planting the seeds of a tree, knowing well that you may not get to sit under it, right? I like the idea of creating something that will outlive me, something that's timeless, and something that's going to continue to impact people in the future. So I'm very big on creating things that are timeless, not fad based, but principles based. So my legacy is to create extraordinary solutions that will shift people's paradigms completely, based on timeless principles across a number of areas, and something that outlives me. And I really hope, whilst I would never ever put it on my daughter to do this, but I hope that it's something that she wants to then be a part of and continue in the future and bring her own flavor to it. but I have a massive passion for education, the right type of education. And so that'll be my legacy, is to leave high quality, world-class educational solutions that are going to transform lives for generations.
That is absolutely amazing. I think that's actually really important how you said that you'd like your daughter to then take over, but then add her own take on things. Because when people often like hand things down, they want it to stay the same way that it was. They want it to be very structured. But then as time does evolve, things may have to change. And I think that's one thing that people aren't often aware of the fact, because they think like what worked then is going to work now. For example, how you spoke earlier about schooling, how they're still teaching the same things that they did like hundreds of years ago, expecting the same results. But then, as we can see, a whole wide range of things have actually moved on. For example, technology, to say the least. So if things are moving on, then so does the education.
Yeah, that's right. And my daughter's only 7, so she's only in year 2, and we talk about leadership, we talk about marketing, we talk about sales, we talk about investing, we talk about God, because those things she's not going to fully learn from school, right? So I have to balance that academic education with life education, and so as a parent, it's my job to do that. But what I like about her is she can think, and I can see that her mind's ticking away and she's absorbing it because she asks questions. So there's a little bit of hope in me that she'll grow up to be somebody that will understand the importance of education, the right education, not education that binds people into a job and makes them slaves to the government and corporations, education that empowers, uplifts, and enables people. And so I hope that it's something that she can see and she can align with, and in years to come, she can lead.
Ron, what advice would you then give to your younger self?
It's just what I said before. I would first discover myself. I mean, if I had to start, I wish I had started there, because so many job and career choices that I make were not completely aligned to who I was. So that would be the number one piece of advice, is for me would be, Ron, first find out who you are and work out your own definition of success before you pursue it.
I think that's definitely really, really powerful, because then as a result, then getting clear as to what you stand for, you're then able to do things in alignment with your vision.
That's correct.
And lastly, could you share with the listeners where they can find you if they'd like to find out about any upcoming things you may have?
Yeah, certainly. So the 3 platforms that I'm quite active on: LinkedIn, Instagram. So Instagram is the Ron Malhotra, LinkedIn is Ron Malhotra, and YouTube. But you can also subscribe and be, I do events globally, and if you're wanting to really understand what it actually takes to become successful with money and business, and also do it the right way, so not just do it the tactical way, check out my website, ronmalhotra.com, and you can subscribe to the Power Punches. I'm pretty direct with what I teach, so we call them Power Punches. You'll get one a week. And and then you'll be notified of any events and things like that I come up with, and special offers and stuff like that as well.
That is absolutely amazing, and thank you so much for sharing. I really do urge that you listeners go and check out Ron. That's absolutely amazing. I'd like to thank you for coming on the Influencer Show today.
It's my absolute pleasure. Thank you so much, Trey. So professional and so well organized, and I can't even believe it that you're just 15 and you're doing all this stuff. So incredible example. Thank you for setting such a great example for everybody. And I'll definitely keep in touch with you.
Thank you so much. And I'd also like to thank you listeners for sticking to the end. And if you guys did enjoy it, please do feel free to let me know. And if you too would like to have the chance to be featured on the show, please do feel free to email the email that should pop up on the screen. And I hope you guys have a great day. That's it from me. Bye.